In this example, we're going to find the limit as x approaches 1 of the absolute value of x minus 1 divided by 1 minus x. Now, typically, we can just use some algebra manipulation when we're finding limits. However, in this case, we have to consider the fact that this is a piecewise function. So the absolute value of x minus 1, just looking at the numerator part, that is a piecewise function. When we look at the absolute value of x minus 1, we have two formulas depending on what side of 1 you're looking at. So here's the graph of the absolute value of x minus 1. When we're looking at the right side of x minus 1, the absolute value, when we're looking at when the values are greater than or equal to 1, the formula for this is x minus 1. Now, the formula when you're looking at the left side, when x is less than 1, that is going to be 1 minus x. Now, because it's a piecewise function, we're going to have to check to see if the limit coming from the left is the same as the limit coming from the right as we approach x equals 1. So we're going to have to do this algebraically, but in two parts, one for each of the one-sided limits. And as long as each of the one-sided limits match, then we know the two-sided limit exists. So if we check from the left, when we're looking at values that are just when x is less than 1, then we're looking at this part of the graph. So for the numerator, we are going to use this formula because we're looking at values less than 1 if we're coming from the left. So I'm going to replace the absolute value of x minus 1. I'm going to replace that with our formula of 1 minus x, and I'm going to do this limit as x approaches 1 from the left. And 1 minus x over 1 minus x, when I divide that, I get 1, and the limit of a constant is just the constant itself. Those are your limit laws, so this is going to be 1. Now, if I check coming from the right, that means I'm looking at this part of the piecewise function on in the numerator. So I'm going to replace the absolute value of x minus 1 with this part of the piecewise function to put that in the numerator. So I have the limit as x approaches 1 from the right of x minus 1 over 1 minus x. When I divide this, I get negative 1. So when I take the limit as x approaches 1 from the right of negative 1, using the limit laws, I know that the limit of a constant is the constant itself. So my limit as x approaches 1 from the right is going to be negative 1. Now, because each of these one-sided limits are different, they're not the same, they don't correspond, so that means the two-sided limit does not exist. So each of the one-sided limit exists, but they're different, so the two-sided limit does not exist.